Hi, my name is Claire. I work in this space. This is me filling time while people are trickling back in. I'm here to introduce our next speaker. You know him from having introduced all of the previous speakers, but I know him from having gone to the Sailor Moon Super Live with last night and buying a Master Sword in Times Square. Please welcome Shy Ruparel.
Thanks, Claire. I thought it'd be weird to introduce myself, probably because it would be. So we had a speaker drop out, so you get me instead. I am going to make us all feel very depressed. It's going to be great. I'll be brutally honest. I hope you never need this talk. I hope this talk is useless and you don't have to remember any of it. We are going to be talking about layoffs. Who here has been laid off? Too many people. Layoffs suck. They're not fun in the slightest. For some context, here's some numbers from layoffs.fyi, which is a site that tracks layoffs. In 2020, oh wow, that font is small. 2021, we lost 15,000 people lost their jobs due to tech layoffs. 2022, that number jumped up to 164,000. 2023, it bumped up another 100,000 to 263,000 jobs were lost in the tech sector. And then last year, it dropped back down to 152,000 people lost their jobs in tech, which sucks. And I mean, I guess the trend is heading down, which is something, but I think with the current economic climate, who knows what direction it's going to be going in 2025. And if you work in tech for the government, that's also probably rough. Or if you work in tech for like the nonprofit sector, that is also rough. And I guess the main takeaway here is that like just because you have a tech job like doesn't mean you are immune from losing it. And like my parents were like, yeah, tech is stable, it'll be safe, you'll be fine. That's not necessarily true. Heidi gave this great quote the first time I gave this talk back in London, which is that corporations are not set up or incentivized to care about their parts. Which essentially like boils down to they are not incentivized to care about us, like as workers. And layoffs can happen to any of us, right? Like any of us in this room could get hit by that. It's not about your work ethic, it's not about your product, it's purely like numbers, right? And I know this firsthand because it happened to me, right? Like I gave this talk for the first time on the 1-year anniversary of my being laid off, which was very cathartic, let me say. And yeah, I took it super personally, and I didn't love it. So we got a couple things we're going to talk about in this talk to prepare you for, again, hopefully an eventuality that you never have to deal with. We're going to talk about some of the warning signs. We're going to talk about how you can prepare right now. We're going to talk about the moment of the actual layoff. And then we're going to talk about how you can come out of being laid off stronger. That sound good? Cool. All right, warning signs. So typically with warning signs, there's some traditional warning signs that you can look out for. You could think about like, has our management changed, right? Like that's usually a new C-suite executive will want to bring in their own people, which means they need to get rid of the old people, right? So like a C-suite shift is a warning sign. If product lines get removed, well, they don't need that many engineers anymore, right? Like if you're on the engineering team building the product that they cut, you're going to be in trouble. If you see hiring freezes usually are a sign that like budget cuts are coming, which you're the most expensive part of your job. Like your salary is, as a tech worker, is the major cost center for most businesses. And if there's just general cost cutting, right? Like when they get rid of the orange juice in the cafe, that is annoying for you for losing a perk, but that's also a signal that like the people are like reducing money, and the orange juice doesn't really save that much money when they get rid of it from the office fridge. As well. But yeah, I actually think the real major sign of layoffs coming right now are none of those. I think layoffs are going to keep happening until investors get happier. Like it's really all about investor morale. And this is a quote from some folks from TechCrunch. And the proof that I have for layoffs being really about investor morale is the delta of stock prices when layoffs happen, right? So Spotify's stock jumped 5%. Google went up 5%. Meta's stock doubled, or sorry, went up 50% when they did layoffs. Amazon went up 50%, Wayfair went up 20%, Coinbase went up 40%, right? All they did was fire workers, and suddenly they're worth more. Amazon laid off 27,000 people, and their share price went up. And this is all publicly available information, like tracked by Forbes. Like you can correlate when you see the LinkedIn post about someone losing their job to 3 days later the stock price. Like the CEO essentially gets a pay bonus for firing 30,000 people, which is absurd. Yeah, and I feel like normally everyone is really obsessed with metrics, right? And so this is the main data that I can use to prove that you need to prep for this stuff. But really the tech economy kind of sucks right now. And the economy in general at large has progressed from the tech economy sucking into the full economy kind of sucks right now. There's so much uncertainty right now that making sure that you have a foundation to mitigate any risk, I think is really important. So let's talk about how you can prepare. I've convinced you that this is a real problem that hopefully you never have to deal with, but you might. So let's talk about how we can prepare. Heidi, again, our keynote speaker, Heidi, has given a great talk on what you need to do if you're about to quit. And I highly, highly recommend this talk. Yeah, highly recommend this talk as well. Watching it in your own time. Heidi has some amazing steps that I am going to regurgitate at a much less detailed quality because Heidi is a better speaker than I am. But essentially, you have a bunch of vulnerabilities that you need to be aware of, right? You need to think about your financial vulnerabilities, your documentation, and then your network, right? So let's talk about money. And this is, I think everyone here works in the US for the most part. The last time I gave this talk was in London, and so it was a little European-centric, but I'm going to be talking about money in terms of US perspectives, and this also varies state by state. You have different protections in different states, and so as much as I want to give you all the ammo that you need right now, you do need to do your own research a little bit. The general rule of thumb that I was always told is that you want about 3 months of liquidity that is accessible. And so when I say liquidity, that is essentially your paycheck, right? You want 3 months of your paycheck in your bank account accessible in an easy format. So that's not in a 401k or a Roth IRA. That's just in a high yield savings account that you can get access to, right? I think it might actually be reasonable to bump this to 6 months just with how long hiring takes as well. Just having 6 months of accessible cash in case of emergencies, right? You don't want to be worried about paying your rent during this period. Make sure you resolve any expenses that you have in real time or as fast as you can, because as soon as you leave, your company doesn't really have any incentives to help you with that paperwork, right? So I think if you're working a job where you are filing expenses, maybe they cover lunch, right? File those expenses in real time. As soon as you get that receipt, take a photo, file it before you start eating, because if you get laid off in the afternoon, the HR person isn't gonna be super cooperative about submitting it to Expensify for you. So just do it right now, because you're gonna lose access to those systems as soon as you're told that you're cut off. And so yeah, do your expenses in real time. And then make sure you have copies of all of your important documents, right? So you need your HR documents. You have an employee contract that you signed when you joined the company that probably has you giving up some sort of IP rights. You should have a copy of that in a place on your own file. Anything you have a signature attached to, whether it's a performance review or something like that, stocks, comp, you should have it. Also, make sure to have copies of your work if you are lucky enough to do work that is publicly accessible, on GitHub. I work in developer relations, so most of the work I do is on public. I have access to that. But if you've written, an article for the company blog about a product that you've done, make sure you have a copy of it, because you don't know how long that is going to stay up. Any performance reviews you should have copies about, especially if they have you in a good light, right? And then leave all of the proprietary stuff behind, right? You do not have rights to take corporate IP or proprietary nonsense onto your own stuff. So just leave that all behind. But anything that's relevant to you, you should keep. And then I think make a habit of CCing your personal email on anything about you. So again, if you get a formal in writing, we're giving you a pay raise, or you're doing great work, just CC that to yourself as well. I hate that I have to give this tip, but For a lot of folks, the password manager, the first time they use the password manager is when they get a job. Don't put your personal passwords in the work password manager. If you have your bank password in the corporate password manager and then they kick you out, suddenly that means you no longer have access to your bank. So don't do that. Make sure that everything personal is filed in your personal password manager. And an easy way to like manage this is just have a different password manager than the one your corporate IT gives you. If you get OnePass, go get LastPass, right? And vice versa. And that way you have like a clean division, because like I know they also have like tools for like managing multi-accounts, but like the easiest way is to just use a different system. And then make sure to cache your network, right? So at work, you should have the non-work contact info for anyone that you think you might want to stay in touch with. If you have a work bestie, they're not really your work bestie unless you have a way to get a hold of them outside of work Slack, right? Like get people's numbers, get their Instagram handles, have a way to communicate, like assuming you lost access to Slack and email, still have a way to communicate with those people that are gonna vouch for you and maybe give you references in the future. And then outside work, if you do corporate work, or if you do work that ends up being client facing, or you work with external customers or other partners or something, like have a way to stay in contact with those folks as well, right? Because maybe that's the next job, right? Like if you're working with Zed Corp, as a customer and you get laid off, you can email Zed Corp and be like, hey, I lost my job. We got hit by layoffs. Like, I'm an expert at this thing we've been working on. Do you want to hire me? And like, you need to have their email to be able to do that. And I also think having an employment lawyer is like a good thing to do. Like when you get an employee contract, having someone that you can just email it off to take a look at is really useful. And it's kind of like a preparation step, right? Like having an employment lawyer that you've already engaged and have a relationship with is going to make it way easier if you have to do anything. Like if your corporation does anything sketchy to you in the exit, like you don't want to have to be finding a new employment lawyer before you're able to address that problem. Like just having one already that you can talk to and like be like, yeah, like, I send you my contract every year when I move a new job. I pay you a couple $100 for that to read this document. And then if something happens, I will reach out and we'll figure it out, is really useful. So you don't have to worry about that stress level. And then again, study up on your local rights, right? So New York is a one-party consent state. So that means like I can record anything as long as I consent to it, right? But like that isn't necessarily true to other states, right? Like you might need two-party consent. And so like if you're being laid off, like, and you're in New York, you should record that call. But like if you're in somewhere else that doesn't have that rule, then like you can't do that. So like know what your local rights are. And then again, write down what is important to you. And there's a much better talk, I think, that you can go check out on the You Got This website that like can talk about this. And so highly recommend that talk. And then I guess the last thing is like maybe consider relocating to the EU. They have way better worker protections there. Like I used to work for a Berlin-based startup, and like the way they do layoffs is based on like a point system that like includes things like, are you a parent? How long have you been at the company? And like if they are doing mass layoffs, it's ranked in a way that like minimizes impact and harm. Taylor Barnett, Harabi gave a really great talk with a quote that's like, the only person that'll actually advocate for you is you, and like you need to do this work because like once you're cut off, like you're in trouble as well. So, all right, let's talk about the moment. The moment that you get laid off is going to suck. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be sad. It's going to be depressing. The rough timeline is you will get summoned, right? Like someone will be like, hey, can like we have a quick one-on-one? Or you'll get a weird email from HR that's like, yeah, why is half the company in a Zoom room like in an hour? So you'll get summoned in some weird fashion. You're going to have the event, the layoff, and then you're going to have to recover and move on from it. You will have no warning, right? Like minimal warning. Corporate folks do not want to let you remain in the IT system when you're no longer employed there, because like that's a potential vector for like malice towards them and the business. And so like they're not going to warn you that this is coming, because that gives you time to prepare. So if you're just like, make sure to prepare beforehand. Yeah, two formats. It's either a one-on-one or it's in a group. When I got laid off, it was in a one-on-one. I got a Slack message from a new CMO who'd been there for like 2 weeks that was like, hey, can we have a quick chat? And I had gotten a bonus from the previous CMO about a month before he started. So I didn't think anything of it. I thought I was on good terms. But I got like a quick like, hey, can we have a chat? And yeah, I showed up, and it was the HR rep and the CMO, and I was told I was no longer employed, and then found out later that neither was most of my department, right? HR isn't your friend in these moments, right? Like, HR is normally not your friend. I think HR is something to keep in mind is that HR is not there to look after you. HR is there to look after your company, right? Like, so whenever you are working with HR people, you need to recognize that they do not have your best interests at heart. And like, again, I know this pretty intimately. Like, I was working with the HR rep that was on that phone call to build training for her department to be able to talk about our product, because I kept having to tell her recruiters not to explain our technology because they didn't do a good job of it. And so I was building content for her. I was making it so her department would act more efficiently. And, you know, that didn't save me anything. And they're going to ask you to sign stuff in that meeting, right? Like, they're going to probably give you severance and be like, okay, here's severance, like, but that severance isn't free money, right? Like, that comes with, like, maybe you lose the ability to talk truthfully about your previous employer. Like, don't sign anything in that meeting. They are going to pressure you to sign a document in that meeting while you're there in this like emotionally vulnerable state. Don't sign anything. Refuse to sign it, and be like, yeah, you can email that to me and I'll forward it to my employment lawyer. But like, I'm not in a state to sign anything right now. Again, if you're in a one-party consent state, record that call. Like, start recording it straight away. Like, pull out your phone, pull out voice notes, and hit record. And you don't have to disclose it if you're in New York. Make sure that you get information regarding when is your final paycheck going to show up. Because it might not necessarily be on the normal payroll window that you're used to. It might be a weird timing. And then make sure you know what's going on with your healthcare. This is my least favorite thing about America is healthcare. That's not true. There are things I dislike more, but it's certainly up there. Healthcare is in this country determined by your employer, right? So like, what day of the month you get employed or get laid off can impact how long your healthcare lasts, right? If you get laid off on the 1st of the month, you have healthcare probably through the end of the month. If you get laid off on the 31st, you might not have healthcare tomorrow. Healthcare runs on a monthly system. And so like, you need to know when your healthcare expires, because that is going to materially impact how you live your life and like the risks that you can take. And also healthcare, getting coverage, continuing coverage through COBRA, is really fucking expensive. It's really expensive. And so you need to be ready to like maybe start paying those bills if you need to. Okay. In the short term, immediately after you're laid off, you are going to feel things. I will totally stand up here and admit that I had a big cry when I got laid off. I took it incredibly personally. You don't need the validation of the people who hired you, because suddenly I'd lost that, right? Like, suddenly these people that I thought were my friends and thought that I was valuable didn't want me anymore. And that was like deeply personal. You don't have to take the severance. I didn't take my severance. I can't be up here giving this talk if I took the severance, because I'm pretty shitty. I'm pretty negative about my previous employer now, and like, that's non-disparagement. It's true, but it's non-disparagement, and like, I can't say that they were jerks for letting me go if I'd signed that contract. So like, if that's worth something to you, like, don't take the severance. If the severance isn't very good, don't take the severance. Like, they offered me a month severance. That's crap. Like, that's shit, right? Straight up, that's terrible. So I didn't take it. Like, for me, being able to speak honestly was more important than a month severance. And also, you get taxed on the severance. So it isn't necessarily as much as they say it is, right? Like, they might say it's an X number of pay cycles, and it really isn't. And the withholding isn't necessarily going to be quite right. So you might have tax implications as well. So like, you don't have to take it. It isn't just a blank check. And then forward everything to your employment lawyer, because you already have one, because you prepared. Yeah, you're gonna lose access to like pretty much everything. And so like, make sure anything that they send you is sent to your personal email, and then you forward that to your employment lawyer straight away. Mercini, who is another great speaker friend of mine, says to avoid rush decisions. The necessity to make decisions often leads to bad ones. And I think in the moment, when you are going through all the feels, you are probably just gonna make bad decisions. And so just put them off. You don't have to make them that same day. And then turn your computer off. just shut it off. You're probably going to lose access to that computer in a couple minutes anyway. IT is going to wipe it remotely, and they're like just sitting in a Slack room being like, yeah, when do we wipe this person's machine? And also like being friends with the IT guys is really nice because sometimes they'll give you a heads up. Sometimes, but like treat your IT people well because they're great. But like they're going to be told like you need to turn this person's access off immediately. So your computer is going to do some weird things and you won't be able to log into it anymore. So again, if you have your bank password saved on that machine, you don't have access to your bank passwords anymore. So just turn it off. And you don't have to read the layoff announcement. If they make some like crappy blog post about how hard and difficult this is for the CEO to like let all these people go, you don't need to read that. Like that's bullshit. Like don't read it. I even think actually go so far as to block your ex, right? Like just straight up block them on LinkedIn and Twitter and unfollow all of their socials and whatever. Like treat it like a breakup. Like and go seek comfort from your friends, your family, and your pets. Like I went to my best friend's house after I got laid off and we just hung out for the whole day. And that was really helpful for me. So I guess the TLDR of this section is delete Facebook, hit the gym, and lawyer up. All right, let's talk about emerging stronger. Another great talk that I love from the You Got This portfolio is about how your job is not your identity. Even after you've been laid off, it's okay to continue to have feelings. You can hold these feelings for a while. Being laid off is traumatic. It is a trauma. Like, I talked to my therapist about it. Like, we talked about it for a while, like disconnecting my identity as like an employee from me as a person. Like, we had to have chats. And you're not alone, right? Like if you're getting laid off in a group, the one nice thing is that probably 19 of your friends also just got laid off, and so they can empathize with you in a way that probably no one else can. And so like you can reach out to those coworkers that also got laid off, right? Because they're also going to be unhappy and sad and like listening to you vent. And also like if they're negotiating deals, like you can get additional information about like what is the company like willing to like finagle on for leverage for your own negotiations, right? Like if you get told that the HR rep is like willing to cave on cutting the non-disparagement clause, like then you should ask for the exact same thing. So talk to your coworkers that got laid off. Make sure you know how you're talking to them though. If like a lot of companies have like ex-employee Slacks or Discords, you should double check who owns those because a lot of times the companies own them. So if you're like bad-mouthing your employer in an ex-employee chat and that ex-employee chat is owned by your employer, that's not gonna go great for you. So don't do that. Like make sure you double check. Most of the alumni, corporate alumni portals that I have access to are run by my former employers. So like I don't use them. They're basically like graveyards to me. Like I'm never gonna touch them. They're useless. And then whenever you're ready, you should share with the people that are important to you. Like I posted on Twitter about it back when Twitter was a thing, that like I lost my job. It took me a while to get around to making that post. And people responded with really nice things. Super nice things, and like actually no, it raised a stir. It like ended up trending on the corporation's account, and they had to deal with that, which was fun. But like I got so many nice compliments from people telling me how like I made a positive impact on them, and I printed them and I put them on my fridge. And like when I felt bad, I would like look at these things that were like, this is how like you've made a positive impact. And make sure to reclaim your identity, right? Like you don't have to keep the employee swag. Like you can get rid of the weird Patagonia with the logo in an odd spot. Or you can find a swag vendor like my friend Evan who works at Brand Makers and have him put an iron-on patch on top of the corporate logo, and then you still get the swag, only it's NASA branded or something like that. So most of my previous employer swag is now NASA branded. And it's great because it's nice swag. I just don't want to wear that company logo anymore. And start to build a routine. The NIH talks about how routines create structure and promote mental and physical and emotional wellness, right? Like, don't just like bum around like playing, I don't know, Final Fantasy 14 all day. Like, you know, get up at 9, like go to the gym, like reach out to some friends, like write some code, like have a structure and a routine that you follow Monday through Friday as well. And then reevaluate your relationship with social media. I'm done with social media. If you find me on social media, please tell me because that's not me and I need to get that taken down. As well. Like you don't have to stay on those platforms and see what other people are doing because for me, I find that they make me feel bad. So I'm done. And again, therapy is great. Therapy is awesome. Highly encourage therapy. And Okay, and so now you need to figure out what you're doing next. So you should set a timeline. Ideally, you have 6 months because you've given yourself 6 months of runway. But like really, that timeline is going to be dependent on a lot of different things. For me, it was like healthcare. I have a bunch of like medical shit that I had to deal with, and I needed to pay for Cobra. And Cobra is really expensive. In New York, Cobra is like $1,000 a month, right? Like, and that's for the same healthcare that my employer used to pay like $300 for, because the Cobra charge is more than your employer pays. And all, like businesses get to write your healthcare coverage as a tax write-off. You have to pay taxes on the money that they give you to pay for your own healthcare. So it's not equitable. Like you will have a bigger cost on your healthcare than your employee did, and also it's expensive. It's really expensive. The nice thing with Cobra is that you don't have to commit to it right away. You can like retroactively pay for it. So it's like kind of an okay safety net, but like again, like you need to keep that in mind. Like if you have some medical stuff that you need to worry about, like that is going to impact your runway because you're going to need to be able to pay for it. So set a budget and apply for unemployment. Hey, you've been paying unemployment taxes this whole time. You now qualify for unemployment assistance. If you get laid off, you should apply for unemployment. Again, depending on what state you're in, that can be easy or it can be a hassle. But you should do it because you qualify for it, and it's free money. It'll extend your runway, and it's really annoying to do, and the websites are terrible, and there's a lot of submissions you have to make to prove that like you're doing your job, but you've been paying taxes specifically into this thing that you now qualify for, so you should take it. And you got to figure out what's your next thing. And I think taking a second to remember, why did you leave your last job? Not the one you got laid off of, but the one you left to go to the place you got laid off. And like figure out like what are the things I was looking for when I was evaluating my job hunt, because like in the moment after you get laid off, the things you're going to be looking for aren't necessarily the best things for you. You're going to be looking for stability. You're going to be looking for things that like are going to be different factors from the reason that you got laid off, and you might not necessarily make the best decisions for yourself. And there's a bunch of different places that you can go to look for jobs, right? Like there's all sorts of different software engineering hiring markets and random Airtables that are in Slacks that you have. Like as you get more specialized and further into your career, you're going to meet people that like do similar things to you and are going to be able to more easily help you identify jobs that are the right fit. If you spent like 5 years in Kubernetes, you're not going to go to a generic portal on LinkedIn. You're going to go where the Kubernetes folks hang out, like in their Slack or their Discord, and like people will be posting jobs there. I hang out in DevRel communities because that's what I do, and like they share jobs in there as well. I'm at a point in my career where I've never really gotten a dev job from like cold applying, which is why it's important to tell us when you're ready, because you can reach out to your friends, and your friends are probably the people that are going to help you find your next job, and your previous coworkers are probably the people that are going to help you find your next job. They are probably hiring, right? And they already think you're good, right? And so they're going to be able to vouch for you and give you a referral, which can be useful or less useful depending on like how far into like how big the company is, right? Like a Google referral is essentially useless, but like a referral at like a 10-person startup is incredibly valuable and can get you past a recruiter really easily. So make sure to tell people so they can help you. Your friends are incentivized to help you through this. And again, remember what's important to you. Remember what your boundaries are. And hopefully you've done this exercise before you got laid off so you can refer back to it and know what you're looking for, what you were looking for before you went through this trauma. Don't take the first job that gives you an offer. I did that, and I very much regret it. I spent a year being miserable at a startup that I didn't really like, working for people that I didn't really like, because like I needed a job and I needed healthcare, and they were the first people to give me a job and pay for my healthcare. It's okay to do something else, right? Like I just spent a year working for hackNY on doing like a bunch of different stuff, and right, like that has nothing to do with me being, I mean, it sort of has something to do with me being a developer advocate, but like it's very different, right? Like running a nonprofit is very different from being a software engineer. And like that's still probably to an extent part of my recovery from being laid off. Like I got laid off, I went to a job I hated, and then I took a year working on stuff I cared about. And now I'm like getting back into industry and working on like my actual career, and like people are still here and are still looking to hire me, and I'm still getting all the referrals I need, right? Like people remember you and will still be here when you're ready to like get back into it. Like I said, I hope this talk is the least useful talk that you see ever. So, and you never need it, but if it is useful, I do want to make sure that you have the info. So that's it though. I don't know how we're doing on time, if we have time for questions, but that's it from me. Maybe 1 or 2 questions and then we'll jump to our next folks, who hopefully will bring the energy back. What's up?
Do you have any advice after your job interview process if they ask you to?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Just say you got laid off and send them the annoying blog post. Being laid off is actually the best reason for no longer working at a place because, like, everyone's gone through it and recognizes how impersonal and how irrelevant it is to your performance and will be like, oh, that sucks, I'm so sorry. And then they'll move on from the question versus like if you got fired and then you have to be like, yeah, I got fired, it was a bad fit. Like then they're like, oh, this is personal, this is about the person. But like if you were one of 30, like they don't care, like they get it. So just admit it straight up front. Oh. In in retrospect, there were so many red flags. I have friends in the audience here that like I was like going to for advice. Our photographer, one of our photographers over there, is probably like nodding their head at me and being like, "Shai, you told me so many terrible things about these founders. Why did you go work for them?" But like in that moment, I was not in a headspace to like look at those red flags because I like it was really hard and I took it really personally and like I was willing to overlook, like I just wasn't thinking right, and like I should have listened to my friends who told me this was a stupid move and that I could do better and make more money and be treated better somewhere else, but I didn't, and I regret that. But that's also really hard advice to give someone, is like when your friends tell you that you're doing something stupid and you're going through it, to listen to them. Like I think that's a bigger thing than this talk. So what's up? Sure. Yeah, I don't think a year is that long, right? Like it was one thing. Um, but also like I think you can do some of the stuff that you got through your original imposter syndrome with, like when you were out of school and you felt that way, like you probably did a lot more practice on technical interviews and like a lot of lead coding and like writing stuff and like going to meetups and talking to people and like getting better at having conversations. And I think you can revisit some of that stuff. I personally haven't had that concern, but like what I do is very niche and like specific and public. And so like I don't need to validate myself in the same way that like someone whose code isn't exposed publicly is. And so I don't really have the best advice, and I would probably just ask other people here who raised their hand when like they were laid off what they did. Oh. What's up? Um, a lot of those talks I referenced are from this like website or collection of talks called You Got This, and there's a ton of really excellent resources on that portfolio, and also like other speakers moving forward throughout the day are going to be sharing stuff along those lines. But like there's a lot of content for the non-technical side of being a tech employee that you can leverage online that I highly recommend as well. I mean, that's part of where this conference comes from, is like an extension of like You Got This and adulting.dev and other conferences that focus on like the non-technical parts of being a tech employee. All right, I'm getting the signal that I am done, or I need to get off the stage and introduce our next speakers. So let me pull up their bio and read it for you.